Start with Holly's car. It's a '08 Skyrocket. Skyrockets are usually pretty heavy because they're really strong and you can run them. Those guys run them up and in those cornfield tracks where they just hammer them like crazy. So these frames will last and last. So they're inherently heavy, which is what I've been running. And you do give up some weight, but it's a good strong car. So now we come along and put this CT525 Chevy crate motor that's sealed, built by Chevy, supposed to make between 5 1/4 and 575 horsepower, depending on who you talk to. You can buy this motor for a little over $7,000. It should last 75 nights, and you've got a nice motor that was built now to race now. Okay, the reason I say that is because all of us are stuck in 1955. Now we're getting the new technology that's been here for a few years and we've been slow to adapt to. So the negative to that is you buy this motor for $7,500 or so, say, but now you got to go buy components to bolt onto it. Because just as we all have headers laying around, and water pumps, and all kind of belts and pulleys that fit our 55 models, this is different. So the first time you put it in, you're probably going to need a flywheel, you're going to need headers, you're going to need pumps and pulleys. It does use the same bell housing, so since we have rear drive starter and fuel and power steering pump, we didn't have to do anything there. But you're going to end up spending $3,000 for accessories. But once you have them, and we'll have more and more pulleys in the closet for the old stuff. But anyway, we took it out and tested it the other day. It sounds really cool. Okay, so that may sound like a lot of money, $7,000. Some people say, well, I don't have $7,000. Other people don't admit they have $7,000 in their motors, but maybe they don't maybe they don't charge for their own time if they built it, or maybe they bought it on deal. Like that motor over there, I bought it for $5,500 from Joe Hicks. We've run it 2 years, and it's a nice little motor. However, it runs on methanol or racing gas. Methanol, you're going to burn twice as much. Racing gas costs $8 to $10 a gallon. This little honey runs on Chevron Supreme or Shell Supreme, anything that doesn't have any ethanol in it. You can probably do that too, we're afraid to. So we go down and fill up our Sunoco barrel for like $140 at the Chevron station. And then we put a little bit of racing gas in it just because we were scared. We thought we needed some additive and maybe a little bit of lead. Here's another one. Nothing against Rick and selling racing products, but I went to AutoZone on Saturday afternoon because we forgot to get oil. But regular Mobil 1 530 synthetic oil like passenger cars run. Guess what they had down there? 5.5 quarts, you get a free filter with it. So again, you don't have to put that part. You know what I mean? And as you can see, okay, we are on gas. These cars were already running on gas. Common problem at racetracks, people don't run the proper cooling, so they're always going to the water cooler. You see cars have been racing out there for 25 years, they're always at the hose, making a big mud lake for us. This car runs on gas or alcohol. This motor is on gas, so we have a 26-inch double pass radiator with a shroud, so we were able to get by with this plastic fan. If you've been running alcohol and you're going to go to this motor on gas, you're probably going to need a shroud, and you may have to use a little better fan than that. I don't know that because we haven't tried it, but we don't have cooling issues. This thing ran at 180, 185 in a daytime race.
I see a couple of things that are unique to this car. I see an alternator. We don't see many alternators on dirt cars. Do you have plans of possibly trying an electric fan at some point?
Yeah, we really thought about it, but we just had already bought so many things, and now that we know that it's running pretty cool, even with that plastic fan, I wouldn't be afraid to try the electric fan. And once again, because this thing is supposedly short on torque, why not get rid of any parasitic drag you can? So if I can get rid of this even that plastic fan's got to draw, what, 5-15 horsepower?
I would
The more
guess.
you rev it up, the more it's going to draw, even though it does open up. And hey, how about this new idea? Let's move again away from 1955. For some reason, like you see my car over there with the battery charger on, for some reason we all have this thought that we need to not run an alternator and charge our batteries every week. So, okay, so what took us to this idea though was I talked to some people, since this motor has more electronics on it, all these coils or ignitions or whatever those are, if your battery gets a little bit weak, it may not fire up above 6,500. So after talking to the guy that ran one, we said, well, why not just put an alternator on? Now we don't have to charge the battery. We actually have a switch, so we could turn the alternator off if we wanted to. And having the alternator led to what Rick just talked about. Why not go ahead and get rid of this parasite and put an electric fan on there?
Alternator looks like a simple hookup, just a one wire up to your bus bar or wherever.
Yeah.
I also see a nice blue contraption here. I think they call that an AccuSump. Tell me a little bit about the AccuSump. What's the reason for it?
Well, if you look at that pan down there, it doesn't have much of a kick out on it, and CJ Rayburn and some of the guys that are running these motors in late models decided it might not have enough kick out, because as you know, when you get off in the turn and you get all the G-force to the right, if you get too much oil sloshed up and out of the pickup, you wouldn't want to starve the thing for oil. And so the AccuSump is something that they came out with years ago whenever there was IMCA motors being claimed for $300, and you didn't really want to put a $500 nice pan on a motor that you could lose for $300 for the whole motor. So people were putting $70 pans on their IMCA motors and then putting this AccuSump, which back then had a hand valve on it. This one's electric. But that way, because this didn't go with the motor. What this does is it holds an extra 2 quarts of oil, and if you do lose oil pressure, it pushes, it's just got like a spring assembly inside of it. So your oil pressure pushes 2 quarts in it, and if you lose oil pressure, it pushes the oil right back in, and you don't starve your motor for oil.
And you have that just plumbed right into the oil filter and the oil cooler, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Cool. Well, this looks like a really good conversion. We're going to find out this weekend, I guess. Just
Yeah, it'll be neat to see what it does.
how well it does.
It did really good the other day in that practice, as you saw, but the track was already somewhat slick. It'll be interesting to see what it does in the heavy when you need more torque, but I think it's going to do good. I think it's going to do real good. Once again, it's going to come down to, you got to have your car set right, et cetera, but I think it's a neat thing. And again, it's supposed to run 70 to 75 shows before it needs freshening. It's going to run on pump gas, which saves money. It just flat saves money.
And if I understand it right, this is the first modified, other than maybe Kelly Shryock's car, that has the LS motor in it.
That's the first one that I know of, Rick.
And they're going to be allowed to run here at Southern New Mexico Speedway and El Paso Speedway Park?
Yes, sir. It's already allowed. We haven't given it a weight break. Well, we don't weigh anyway in the regular season. We only weigh at our big shows. But CJ Rayburn tells me you should give it a 200-pound weight break, but that's in late ones. I don't know yet. We've got to see. I mean, maybe it doesn't need a weight break. Maybe it's, who knows? We just got to see how it does. I don't think it does, because it's missing torque. It's got the horsepower, but it doesn't have torque. And what Kelly Shryock told me was on a stop-and-go track like Chris's, in the heavy, it's not going to do as good as somebody's 360 or 400. But it's in the slick, when you can't use all your motor anyway, it's going to just be right there.
Excellent. We'll find out this weekend.
All right.
Thank you.